Okay, so this is the classic false. It is one of the, I wouldn't say the hardest false to do, but it's certainly not 100% reliable, and you know, it can be a hit and miss false, meaning you are in control, but you haven't got 100% of the control. So let me quickly explain. So you've got the 4 clubs. You're going to bury it down in the pack, and all you're doing is you're going to spread like this to begin with, and a hand will magically appear and take the card that you've obviously forced on them. Now, thank you. What you're going to do is this. Is if I break this down, you're feeding, you've got a break here, just here, okay? You are now spreading where that break is, okay? And as you spread, you watch the person's hands coming into play and you feed them that card. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. If I do it face up as well, a little tip here is if you've got the card all the way down at the bottom, before you say anything, say, I'm going to spread the cards. If you could pick a card, and as you see the hand come in, you go by the speed of the hand, and the faster the hand comes in, the more you spread. Or if they do it quite slow, if they come in quite slow, you then feed it in slow. But if they're coming in fast, let's give this a shot. If they're coming in fast, you really have to speed up to match them. And like I said, it is a hit and miss false. All you really are doing is spreading the cards with a gap here. Obviously, in the real world performance, you'd want a gap about that size, you know, hardly anything. And as you spread, you then feed them the card into the hands. But like I say, this isn't probably the hardest move to learn, but it's definitely not always going to work in your favour. So don't feel bad if you do it to people and it doesn't always work. Another great way to practice this is when you're just performing to people, just perform the classic false, because the 90% of the time you're going to say pick a card. That could be a nice way for them to pick the classic false card, and it gives you a bit of practice. But yeah, don't feel bad if you don't always get it 100% of the time. I mean, it's one of those moves, and trust me, sometimes people will actually take the top card, people will take the bottom card, so they're not always going to work in your favour, but learn it, because it's the purest way of forcing a card. This is the most natural way how magicians will say pick a card. The other stuff is just kind of cool to have a different selection, but if you can learn the classic false and get it down, it's worth learning.